Yeah, go ahead. Before you start, one thing I got to do first. It's Enda. We're starting. Here's your cue. Sorry. All right. Now we can start. Welcome to this Q&A, everybody. Yeah, I'm going to be here. Melzia's co-hosting with me. We've got Diff and Jank here as the dev team guest. There's going to be something special at the end. I don't know what it is, but all I know is it's going to be special, so that's kind of cool.
And all I've been told is to tell them when we're wrapping up, so I don't know what it is either.
Oh, there you go. We're gonna, first things first, we're gonna go through the questions that have been sent in. Then I'll open the floor with whatever remaining time we have left. But before we begin with the questions, we just had a pretty major update recently. What was the toughest part of that new update, Diff, Gang?
You mean auto sorting?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is particularly hard. It just, it's always about where you spend your time, and it's always about the QA process. But I mean, compared to gunnery and the calculations in gunnery, yeah, it's all trivial. It's pretty simple stuff.
That's good, at least. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get this started. First question's been sent in by Aquafaba. First three, actually. But their first question is, any chance we're going to see Coast Guard vessels represented? Maybe the Tanny or the Escanaba. I probably mispronounced this horribly.
If it's Taney, maybe, I don't know. I'm just thinking of the Supreme Court justice.
And then there's Lani Kai as well, another famous one of the era, although she's not a combat ship by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I mean, sure, we're open. I can't confirm or deny that we have plans specifically for a Coast Guard Belle, but certainly when it's the United States' turn, if they were to nominate a Coast Guard vessel that fits within certain parameters, then sure.
I mean,
yeah.
All I'll add is you were going to let us get away with adding a mass boat, so.
Yeah, I have been asked by friends. Oh, what about the Brown Water Navy representation? What about this or that or the other? And it's like, look, Dip's right. Amerigo Vespucci is in the game. She's not exactly a combat ship, although there's a certain someone among us has been making a compelling argument otherwise. So yeah, I would say never say never.
I mean, Wigbert, if you wanted a mass boat, you could have one. I can't imagine them being in anybody's lineup, but sure, if that's what you want to do.
I can only do so many proposals at once, sadly.
So you are telling me that when a nation is first in the ranking, it gets the right to choose a ship, like you did for the Italian last time. So any kind of ship is okay for you?
I mean, undoubtedly, if something truly out there or something that required like a significant change in order to be effective with it were to be picked, and maybe certain American players know what I'm talking about, then under those scenarios we might object, right? We might reject. But I think part of the reason we do this, right, is because these ships are really interesting and fun and cool. So we don't want to take anybody's waifus away from them. Just making the observable point that if they don't have a lot of combat value, you might not use them in your lineup.
All right.
Yet Amerigo is there.
True.
Well, we needed a training ship, so yes, we chose her. I mean, she is the most beautiful ship in the world, so we had to select her, right? We didn't have much of a choice on that one.
Yeah, and again, there's a grand tradition of self-imposed challenges and joke weapons, joke characters in gaming. Not that I describe Vespucci as a joke, not that she would describe herself as one, but different parameters, different challenges.
All right. Moving on to the second question. Any chance for a sort of auto-recommended equip for best gear options?
Oh man. So those of you that have been involved in R&D know that the performance score is maybe like a useful notional guide, but it doesn't really tell you much from an advanced player perspective. And since, unfortunately, AA and surface weapons share the same calculation, it also means you could get into a weird situation where the game is like, hey, your 50 cals are the best thing you got, right? So I don't know that we would do that. I am a casual player in other games, and I always hit auto until I get really deep into it. So I understand where it's coming from, but I don't think we have any plans at this time.
Okay. I can understand how that would be difficult with the performance stats, so you couldn't have it go by performance.
Yeah, not impossible. It's just, what is this ship for? Like, what role do you intend for it? And
You'd have to be able to set parameters, yeah.
Exactly.
All right. The next question is, can we get a screen where we can replay voice lines?
Yeah, I mean that's a neat idea, like a little audio booth thing. As with any request of this type, I mean, of course, it's technically feasible. Like anything is possible. It's really just more about the time spent, right? And that particular feature, goes into the queue. It gets prioritized, and we get after it when it makes sense. But yeah, there's nothing stopping us from doing that, and it's a pretty fun idea.
Okay. See, the next question's from Rory. Would we be able to get a feature in the future that would allow us to go back through Belle story missions to remember the content without having to reset and having to play through the entire set of missions again?
Yeah, and that's really like come to the fore, right? With like the crew, dropping and whatnot. Like the idea of replaying. I can tell you guys that it's hard. That's that's why it's not a no-brainer for us to go, oh yeah, of course you can reread that. Like here you go. If it were simple, I don't think we'd have any objections there whatsoever. That's a pretty significant change, let us say. So I won't say never. But like all things, you got to look at the overall size of it, and there's only so much time, right? So you pick and choose, and it gets prioritized.
Okay. Moving on. Next one is from Kiyoshi. In order to know what is happening on the land, should the globe be colored so each nation's in-game war situation would display? People would kind of figure out that China's at war with Japan and that sort of thing.
That is a much desired feature from us. We love the idea of those old wartime propaganda movies where the black of Germany is spreading across the globe, right, with the sinister swastika in the middle. I mean, it would be so cool. Yeah, so it's highly desirable, but at the same time, maybe not a high priority, but it's got some very potent internal advocates for that exact feature. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and certainly, we could. It's not something necessarily that we could implement in a like dynamic day-to-day fashion. You'd have to be like, okay, well, this is the situation like 3 months into the year. This is the situation like 6 months into the year, right? So there'd be intervals, but it's something I would like to see because it's already playing out a little bit differently.
True. We have entered a couple of interesting timelines, it appears.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, Chaos Theory, Initial Conditions.
The next question.
Life finds a way. Is that where you're going with that? Sorry.
Yeah, I just reread Jurassic Park. It's on my mind.
Oh, okay, got it.
The next set of questions is from Free Jones. The first one is, how do salvage drops work? Some gear pieces seem to drop from cruises in addition to vestures, and would you be open to adding a way to focus on certain gear, including gear you have sold?
Yeah, I've seen that request. Like some people are like, oh, I want the special gear and the thing, and right, and like get it. Are we open to the idea? Yeah, sure, we're open to it. like would you give the equipment a rose? Like who knows? Clearly we haven't thought it through, but we're open to that idea. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I could say.
Okay.
Oh, but in terms of the first part of it, how does it work? The salvage, the equipment is in the same drop table as the vesters. So you just have a chance, a low chance, but a chance to pick it up.
Okay. And I know it's been asked before, but you think you said each map has 2 pieces of equipment that can drop on it?
Yeah, that is correct. Well, I think some maps, like some of the event maps, may not have a special bit of gear that drops on them, but all of the core maps have 2. Jank, correct me if I'm wrong on that. That's right, isn't it?
Sorry, that all the core maps have certain designated equipment drops.
Yeah, I think they have 2, right?
No more than 2. Some don't. Some have 1, but you're never going to find more than 2. So that actually answers a question a little further down. But yeah, just so you're not chasing your tails. That's the
Jank,
parameter of it.
just to confirm though, the core all have 2. The event might have none or 1 or something, but the cores, don't they all have 2? Isn't that right?
Not all of them. I was just looking at them, and it's not even necessarily an HQ level like determined thing. There's other factors.
And then let's say that the answer to that question, Wigbird, or I guess the one that comes down later, probably our goal is to have 2, like sort of interesting equipment drops, per map. So maybe they don't have them now, but that would likely be our goal for the core campaigns.
Seems reasonable. And the second question is, how often will event bells rerun, if you know yet?
Yeah, well, of course, the event bells will not likely rerun in the same way that they've run here, right? Because they're all topical to what's going on in the world, or topical in one way or the other. But you might see them in other like special catch-up events, or a gotcha or something. As to how frequently, I couldn't begin to speculate sort of what the marketing team is doing there. I think the only point of data that we have is that the Kickstarter bells won't appear until a year later. So I guess if I had to answer, and I just pluck from that data point. But yeah, I mean that's a marketing call, right?
Okay. So we need to go. I need to go find a marketing person to bug for that. Got
it. Yeah. Good luck getting them to install Discord, but yes.
Yeah, and to the extent that we even have an answer for that at this stage, right? Because there's going to be other event bells down the road, so we have to make room for that, for them schedule wise. So yeah, as Diff says, it would be a little bit of a different structure.
Okay. So they definitely will not be showing back up in the form they have now. Got it.
No, they those event maps, you cleared them, you used them, they're done. The whatever happened from them happened.
Okay.
So now the next question is, where is this marketing person, and how can we get him? Hey, on the Q&A, where do we need to go to kidnap them?
Well, you'd have to go to, I guess, San Francisco, but getting them on the Q&A seems like an unlikely proposition, but I'll certainly ask.
There's actually going to be an event map in just off of California. You got to get the requisite number of vesters and then cash them in for this person.
Definitely a 200
right.
vesture there.
Yes, there you go.
No, that's an answer. So for the next question from Kalk, if I pronounce this name right, Dink, how are you doing? Last time we couldn't have you, and me neither, but I was sick, I couldn't speak at all. But you, how are you doing?
Well, I was, first of all, I'm glad that you can speak again. I'm glad you're over that. But yeah, Calc, I appreciate the question. It's a shame that they can't be here right now, but they can listen back to this. These get recorded. I'm doing good. I'm not going to go into too terrible much detail, but what happened to me, it had been brewing a while. I only found out about it in February. It occurs in like 1 in 100,000 people. But it's been resolved, and I am making as swift and as complete a recovery as I could possibly have hoped for.
That's fantastic to hear. We are very glad to have you here tonight in France. Which means we can go to the next question, which is about the art book. During the Kickstarter, there was an art book in preparation for the backers. How is it going?
Yeah, there are actually two books. It's not just the art book. There's also Mahan's book as well. So we're kind of waiting, and I think we're getting to that point soon, where we're simmering down, right, as a dev team, and kind of can really investigate, vendors. So we did reach out to the previous vendors that we were going to use about 7 years ago. To refresh the quotes, but we also need to do, some investigation about maybe local prices have changed, or possibly there are other countries now which are getting involved in publishing services. It's laid out, it's ready to go, and it actually has been that way for a good number of years. Yeah, I think it's just more a function of where are we spending our time, and right now, we're spending it on the game proper. But yeah, no, we haven't forgotten it.
That's good to hear. So maybe this question has already been asked, but is there any plan for a digital release for that book?
Sorry, what's that, Elsia? Is there any plan for what?
A digital release. Digital release.
Yeah. I mean, nothing would prevent us from doing a digital release, but I sort of doubt it. I think what's kind of special about that book is it's kind of a neat coffee table sort of experience. As you guys probably already know, we have a pretty big physical library, like for book people. so I don't know if we do a digital release, but yeah, I mean, nothing prevents us from doing one.
All right. So then the next question. Metagame-wise, how are the diplomatic relationships measured? Each time you're posting a new war plan, how do we say, report each week about how people voted for each mission, each war plan for each nation, there's a bunch of plus and minus, like plus divergence, plus civil unrest, plus Morgana deterrence, or some things like that. How does it work? What's the meaning behind all that? Can you explain it a bit?
Yeah. So first, I think early on somebody asked this question, probably on the Discord. Obviously, not all relationships can begin at the same level, right? So the relations between Germany and say France are already bad to begin with. So when you see a +1, that's not nearly the same thing as a +1 relations between Britain and France, right? As an example. Did I say France and Germany? Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You got my point. And that's problematic because it's not using an objective scale, right? That we have shown. Behind the scenes, we actually do have a little bit of an objective scale that kind of shows everything. But I don't know. I think a couple of people, Urza in particular, has been crying out for some rationalization on the the benefits of the war, and so there may come a time in which we sort of replace that with like a current value, which is probably more useful to you guys than just like a +1. Anyway, that's the answer, Elsia.
I don't know to say that. Some people want to know exactly how things are going to unfold, but sometimes just the fate and hope doesn't work that way. So, will you speak everything? Will you explain everything to us at one point, or just no, it's going to happen, but you don't know why. You don't what?
The fog of war is too strong, and I think as everybody on this call will undoubtedly, realize during the war, impossible things, literally, no one could have conceived their success, will happen, right? And undoubtedly, there's going to be frustration about that. If you guys thought things were taking a turn for the worst, it's only 1939, right? So yeah, there's definitely fog of war in this, and Well, you'll see what I mean, I'm sure, as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, since
That's
the
ominous.
beginning of time, people have thirsted for perfect knowledge of the ramifications of their decisions. But again, chaos theory. Initial conditions can spiral off into who knows where.
Oh, that's ominous. The next question from Free Jones has technically been solved already, but some people might not know. So we're asking anyway. Why are still drops and cruises nerfed so badly, and are there any plans of making them less nerfed in the future?
I mean, as with everything, we have a ton of data, so we're constantly looking at the economy, right? I mean, I think you guys can imagine that that you guys are going to inevitably see some changes. Although I think things are coming to a nice stable point. The original impetus actually of reducing that was because there's another system that I cannot reveal that will be coming to you. Well, I guess I can't reveal that either. That will carry its own set of rewards, and so we were sussing out what we would need to do to make that in there. But yeah, clearly that was maybe too much. And so do we have plans to make them less nerfed? Yes. We just executed on them.
I mean, you could let us know what you're not supposed to tell us. I'm not going to tell anyone.
I know. I could do that. But then I'd be smacked around and it would be bad.
Fair enough. I would like to keep you gainfully employed.
Yeah.
You have to take
next.
some risk sometime, You have to take some risk for the resistance. For la résistance.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind, Elsia. Thank you.
The next question is, can we expect any more Bells to be voiced in the near future?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, obviously, you should keep asking that question. That's totally fine. The answer is yes. Of course, yes. But maybe it's not a surprise. But we have not been still very successful about finding international actresses with really, decent sort of VA quality mics. We actually, it's really too bad. We actually had somebody for Chervona Ukraina who is Ukrainian and who has just an amazing personality, but we couldn't do anything with the mic quality. Like even our sound designer, as good as he is, right, was unable to make that work. Not to say that any actress that we select for Chervona Ukraina will be in any way bad. It's just we were picking up some Kirov vibes off her, and Kirov, as you guys all know, just has that really like fun, vibrant personality. So I mean, with regret. So as usual, I'll toss out the plea if you have somebody for Marissa to consider. Definitely let me know or just send it in to the support mail and. We'll pass it on.
Hashtag give Ukraine a mic.
I mean, I'm sure you could crowdfund that fairly easily.
I don't see how we'd get it into Kyiv.
That would probably be the issue, yes.
Yeah, it's not that it didn't cross our minds. It's that, well, I don't know how to do that.
Let's see, the next question's from Nell. Will we be able to get a captain's page, a place where we can view our profile and see information like exact numbers of current resources, login streak, maybe select between a male or female avatar, that sort of thing?
I mean, it's a great idea, Nell. So I think as you guys from the Kickstarter days know that achievements is something that is on our roadmap. And that would be an appropriate place to display those achievements or at least talk about some of the stats that allow you to unlock those achievements. I don't see any reason why we couldn't select gender, but that choice wouldn't be reflective in the stories. That would be that would be an amazing amount of work to get that hook in. So I don't think that would be in the cards, except as a vanity choice. Like if you just wanted to say, like, here I am and I'm female and so on and so forth. Sure, I don't have any problems with that. But yeah, beyond that, It's a solid idea, and it lines up with something that is on our roadmap.
Oh, do I like this word, roadmap? But can you explain us what is the next item on this special roadmap?
No, it's not
Okay.
revealed. I'm sorry to say.
Damn.
Well, actually, I can tell you, there's a fix for fatigue. How about that? That's the next thing on our roadmap.
Well, you don't say. What? Whoa! Wow!
Incredible!
I never would have thought. Damn, you learn
It's like
everything
driving through a
first
haunted
here.
forest. You don't know exactly what you're going to get.
Let's see. The next set of questions is from Cervantes. The first one is, what is the thing at Majorca? I'm
Majorca,
definitely
yeah.
butchering that one.
Mallorca, yeah.
Yeah,
For
that's
those who
okay.
don't know, that's a map.
So this is a fun one. It's an event map from it's either well, it has to be from this month. So there's an answer you'll notice on the sheet, and I am not the J referred to in this answer. It's a different J on the editorial team. But so for those of you who don't know, here's the flavor text for Thing at Mallorca. Palma is cut off from the mainland by a Morgana installation of unknown nature. Break through the lines and relieve the island. Now, this Morgana installation, as we've discussed in the editorial team, it doesn't seem to be deforming the weather as the Morganas are trying to do elsewhere. Certainly doesn't have the beauty of the short-lived Vanity Palace on the bottom of the Tyrrhenian Sea. Some witnesses suggest that its primary architect was, in fact, Sin. God only knows what that might ultimately entail. It keeps getting bombed, or perhaps more pertinently, bonked, and it keeps rebuilding itself. So, ongoing challenge.
Just let us take it down. We'll do it.
Well, I mean, some of you all want to go there.
Those people, we don't discuss those people.
Yeah, the event maps all have, I don't know, little story components, right? Like you can kind of pick up as you go through them. So take a peek at those. They're kind of letting you know some things that are going on around the world.
And I can say, without getting more specific than I'm about to get, is that the game story, like the league story, will refer to some in some form or fashion. It's not totally divorced one from another. So be on the lookout.
Very interesting. All right. The next. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that many people hope to go inside Sin House to visit, obviously, for research purpose and
Yes.
on how to beat Morgana, of course.
Yes, these horrible people I don't like talking about. Cervantes' second question is, were you support the recruit Mahan ticket?
Definitely not, but we'll also give you a sneak preview of what that would look like towards the end of the call, I suspect.
I will say, like, there's certain practical concerns, right, with Recruit and Mahan being president and VP.
True. I.e., not being able to get into the White House would probably be a concern, for me at least.
I mean, you could dig a canal there, right?
I mean, I want to dig a canal through central Italy, so if I can do that, then other people could too. Right. Our next set of questions is from Wellington, his first one being, do the modifiers from the war plans operate on a scale, or are they modifiers to dice rolls behind the scenes?
I would like to add before you answer this question that you asked if for people to roll dices for certain actions to happen during the last set of war plans. So that's why this question was asked. Will there more?
Actually, I'm kind of thinking that Wigbert, the next time it happens, maybe we do like a little QA so we could do live rolling, right? Like I think that'd be pretty entertaining.
Oh, so I can witness Wellington hate himself in live.
Yes, the famous
Right,
one.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
All right, cool.
I'm so sorry, my man. Do the modifiers operate on a scale? Well, first and foremost, the modifiers are sort of like they're kind of like progress bars, is what they are. And they have, kind of an upper end and they have a lower end, and you sort of, tick them along their progress bar, and it does various things for our metagame, behind the scenes. But also, at various points where they are relevant, we do use them as modifiers. Yes, that's correct.
I see. And does national ranking affect how successful war plans are?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this on Discord, but it's worth kind of repeating here. So ranking, kind of gives you some extra benefits, and over time, I think they could give you a pretty significant material advantage. But at the end of the day, like if you take, for example, Italy. Italy is the Italy of November 1939, and yeah, there's a Morgana War going on and so on and so forth, but their capabilities and their supply situation and their government and what's going on internally and externally, these things are effectively at the same place that they were in the real world. And although we joke about Nepal conquest, it just isn't going to happen, right? Like,
yeah.
It's just not effective. So national ranking will give you some benefits, but it doesn't really have anything to do with your progress in the war per se. If the Italian army, decides to invade Greece tomorrow, absent any other decisions and factors made, the results will likely be the same.
Yeah. That's why we're doing our damnedest not to do that.
But
I mean, it's not your choice, though, Egbert. That's the problem.
I know.
And all you're doing right now is just making it super, super easy for him. Well, anyway, sorry, I've said too much. Continue.
Look, I'm trying my hardest. Suffering from success.
The more successful you are, the more he'll tighten his grip.
Another question about those war plans is that if at any point there's a war plan that goes Italy against Britain, for example, since Italy is always at the first rank, would that mean that Italy would win anyway, whatever happens during those war plans?
No, rankings give you like some additional benefits. I mean, you've seen the kind of benefits that they give, like a relationship boost, or they increase your preparedness, or reduce your deterrence. And these things are factors in combat, but it wouldn't change the base ability for or the base performance of say the Italian army at the time. So just because Italians are number one doesn't mean that they will not, get get handed their pasta by the Greeks, for instance.
Yeah, well, maybe one day, we'll get rid of the funny bald man.
Well, no, I mean about that. If you wanted that to change, right, you'd have to look at what are some of the factors that cause that performance, right, and then how do you remedy those, right, as within your sphere as Navy.
Yeah, we're working on it, doing our best.
Does that mean that you have any plan of straying very far from the history as we know it?
Let's say that a lot of things are on the table that can be negotiated by the player, but this being a little bit of a community sort of game, right? You'll have to persuade your fellow captains to adopt courses over a consistent time period, right, that are going to lead to a significant change. So those are the kinds of things that I think you'd want to look at if you really want to go ahistorical. If you follow if you sort of map to historical conditions, you're likely to get a historical outcome. Whereas if you're consistently choosing things which are ahistorical, right, then you're likely to get an ahistorical outcome. That doesn't always mean that you'll be successful, Very definitely, there are a set of Morganas that are playing against you, right? But that's the way to do it if you're interested in A history.
Right.
And do you know how far you want to stray from it?
I mean, we're pretty open. I think that's sort of the fun of this style of game, right? Like, it has to be plausible for the world at that time. But beyond that, I think we're really excited to see where you're going to go.
All right. And then the final question that we'll be answering from the one sent in. We've already answered part of it, but I think the more pertinent part is, would you be open to adding an indicator to show us when we've gotten all the gear from a map?
Yeah, I mean, that's... yeah, that's... I mean, it's possible. It's possible. But, you'd have to do some things like remember that you got it, right? And, it'd be another set of data in addition to the, sort of bells of interest, right, that you've already got. I mean, I like the idea. I like many of you guys, I like to dwell on a map until I've gotten everything from it, right? Like that's my style personally. So I understand, sort of the desire and the need for it. It's a solid idea. I couldn't say what its priority would be, but it's a solid idea.
Okay. I have one question of my own before we open it up to the floor. So, Diff, you and I have
That's the privilege
discussed.
of being the facilitator, I suppose. Go ahead, Wigbert. Sorry, that was a joke.
We've discussed the future of. How do I want to say
Hey,
it?
Wigbert, your mic totally cut out. So
Oh, did it? All
yeah,
right. Yeah, no.
everything before.
Is it good now?
Yeah, it seems okay now.
Sounds good.
Okay. But yeah, you and I have discussed before the future of the top nation rewards and the top 5 rewards and
Oh yes,
top
yes.
alliance. Do you want to discuss that more, or?
Yeah, no, I think it's useful and important. So first of all, we heard you guys consistently, and I hope it's been clear. You want more depth charges, like you just need them, right? Like, you want them just pouring out of your ears, right? Like I got it, we understand. We've already made changes. Actually, we should have done this on April 1st, shouldn't we?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, no, we heard you. So the ranking, our original hope, our original intention is that would be a little bit more competitive than Pasta Blowout, right? But that's not the case. And we're not going to artificially tip the scales or anything to, make Italy, worse off and so on and so forth. If you guys, love it, you want to, own the board, we want you to do that. But obviously, with this kind of a situation, what we were doing before, where we were giving a special reward to sort of the top-ranking alliance, top-ranking nation, it doesn't make sense anymore in that context, right? Like it would just always be Italy. So we've gone ahead and we've boosted and reworked national alliance rewards, and now they're just kind of given to everybody. And if there's a special bit of tech or something that we want to give, we might give that via a new system that's going to be coming up, or we might extend the rewards just to give that to everybody in a certain alliance or so on and so forth. But I just the exclusivity thing just doesn't make sense anymore, I think.
Okay, and so we're not going to be seeing any of that going forward.
No, this next ranking rewards, it's just everybody's going to get their national rewards. Everybody's going to get their alliance rewards with some rework, and we boosted the results. Actually, amusingly, there happened to be a Morgana depth charge of all things that was going to be given as a special reward, and I don't know if we're going to still give that or not. It's pretty cool though. I mean, well, it's fun. Let me say that. I don't know if it's cool, but it's fun. Anyway, go on.
So more depth charges. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's more depth charges.
All right. But that's all the questions that have been sent in. So we're going to open it to the floor now, scrolling back up to see if I can't figure out what the
Yeah, there
first
was
one
one from Asteria Vox, I think, that I saw. Yes.
Yep.
Rebalancing traits and quirks. Yeah, it's the intention, Asteria Vox, and actually, I think this is for horse memes too. It's the intention to let you guys know early. So this thing with the sales price, right? So like I actually ran that one down, and what happened there is I made the change to reduce the cost for repair and refit, and because that section of the code was open, another person on the team had the totally correct idea. Oh well, let's fix sales costs at the same time, and then just sort of didn't put that in the patch notes. So I think I can say, clearly that was not really supposed to happen. We play games too. We're players as well, so we know that feeling. We know what you're talking about, and we're gonna do our best to stop surprising you when it comes to those changes. Now, having said that, there is something that I personally learned. When that particular trait came out, we probably should have hotfixed that right away. I think the general consensus was, oh, everybody's having fun with it, and it's obviously that can't be intended. And as a consequence, just to have fun and enjoy, and then at our next update we'll pull it out. But what happened was people used it and got super attached to it, right? And yeah, it didn't work out so well. So that was another bit of learning there on that exact same problem.
All right, moving down. Looks like the next question's from Scoot, but Yami appears to have answered that one, so we can move on from that one. From Incinda, what about Morgana voices? Since there's distortion effect layered on mic quality, do you have the same issue with voice actresses for that?
No, it's just that Morganas are super easy to cast, so we try to pick those carefully and for other reasons too, which I cannot disclose. So carry on.
All right. One from Horse Memes. Is there any consideration being given to significantly reduce or to remove the heavy resource penalty to repair critically damaged equipment to make it less likely to get frisky in night fights, close range battleship shootouts, etc.?
Yeah, we're always looking at that kind of stuff. It came up quite recently when I was taking a look at refit and repair. I can't say that I see anything immediately foreseeable in the future, but yeah, I mean we're always taking a look at that kind of thing, and if it needs to get addressed or it needs to get addressed urgently, right? Then we'll take action there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Free Jones wants to clarify one of their questions. Then, if they sell stock gear by accident, is there a way they could reclaim it if they wish to R&D it?
I can tell you one way to do it. It's to kill your Belle and rescue her again. That gets you the full stock gear at once.
Always Elsia with the killing of the bells. Always. Yeah, Free Jones. Yes, anything is possible, right? Technically speaking, it's not possible. It's not super trivial to do buyback, but anything is possible. I think it's more likely that you might see some of that stuff rotate through the diplomatic store. And actually, bumping up ahead, I think Horse Memes had a question about putting prior month's rank rewards into the diplomacy store. That's exactly where you will ultimately see some of the quote-unquote exclusive stuff that's given out. They have their own moratorium periods, like the guys who won get to play with it for a little bit, right? But eventually you'll see those stores kind of populate with that. Now, obviously, it can't have all the stock equipment, right? So, that's going to be a concern. And buyback obviously addresses any mistakes that you might have made. But although it's possible, I couldn't imagine that one's going to be a quick priority. Yeah, poor Bells.
Well, Scoot wants to know if the situation on the leaderboard changes and the top ranks become more competitive, will your policy on that change again?
I personally, this is just for me speaking. Personally, I would love it if it became super competitive. I think if we saw a situation in which all 7 had an equal shot, right? And it was constantly going back and forth in a fun tug of war. And everybody's really into it. Then yeah, I could see it return. But let's face it, right? The probability of having a hyper competitive situation like that week after week, I think we can all agree that that's it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Some factions are just going to be more popular than others, and it's just the way it is.
Right. Moving on, we've got one from Evo. They want to know what happened with the game advertising. There hasn't been much that we've seen.
Well, first of all, if anybody on this call is seeing our advertising right, we're doing it wrong. number one, right? As to pregame stuff, yeah, probably we should have made a bigger push. I think a lot of people kind of like backed into this or came at it laterally. Yeah, no, we are actively marketing, and we actually have some fun stuff, some fun collaborations which are coming up. Although I can't spill any details on that as yet.
Very sad. Supply ships, are you considering adding them into the game or no?
Yeah, I mean, Frantisek, this question's been asked in a slightly different wording before, but yeah, the answer is the same. Never say never. We got Vespucci in there. She's not exactly a warship, but gameplay wise and also lore wise, like the sky's the limit.
And just to note again, not to be too coy, but there is an 8th slot on the fleet screen, so just you can use your imagination.
Is there any consideration to putting prior month rank rewards into Diplomacy Store?
Yeah, I answered that one when I was tackling the other question that they had. The answer is yeah, that's almost certainly where the exclusive stuff will go. But again, there's going to be a period over which the people who want to get to play with it, right? And then later on we'll make it available to everybody else.
I was going to ask something related to that. Oh yeah, should we expect the Diplomacy Store to roll over this month?
That's a good question. I think the answer is yes. I think it's every 2 months. I think is what they've done. I'm not totally sure, but I believe the answer is yes.
Okay. Another one from Horse Beams. Is there a plan to eventually completely bar the mixing of high and low angle traits for weight savings? And tangentially related, the inclusion of alternative weight saving advantages instead of needing to game the system for it?
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer the former and then the latter. So for the former, I don't want to, because anytime that we spend on the traits as they are now is time that we don't spend on 2.0. But it's becoming the meta, and it's looking all funky. Like eventually, I might have to step in there and do something. I just would prefer not to. As to alternative weight saving advantages, the answer to that one is a definite yes. But I do think that probably you're going to see the majority of the weight savings coming out of your quirks, like the quirks that you select. So right now you can get some pretty hefty weight reductions out of your traits because of the low angle, high angle thing. But I think in the future, it's more likely that you'd see something like traits are going to be where the supernatural weight savings advantages are, and your advantages are going to be much more sort of moderate. So that does mean that is likely to imply that in crafting 2.0, your mounts in general will weigh more. But of course, you'll also be having to worry about other things in that system. So I think that there would be pressures on you to reduce the number of overall mounts anyway, especially for your larger caliber guns. So, barbettes and, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. So I think the answer, Horse Beams, then I can sum it up as yes, but hopefully not anytime soon. And if we do, it will be in the patch notes. You can yell at me if it's not, but I'll give you my personal guarantee.
Let's see. Java wants to know if there are any plans to rebalance trait cost and damage buffs before or in crafting 2.0.
I don't think so. I don't think so, Haba. Maybe. I mean, when there are times where we have to kind of get in there and heavy hand it, right, as we did with this accuracy thing, then we'll do it. But in general, gonna try not to do anything there. Having said that, though, the damage quirks, like I get from a numbers basis why people are like, oh my god, that is just. I gotta get that DPS and whatnot. And I think that does make sense when you're talking about large caliber weapons, right? Because a rate of fire increase is not going to make an appreciable difference in the number of sabos you're gonna get off, right? So I think I would skew to damage, but I would choose other things for maybe medium caliber or light caliber, or what I'm doing for AA and so on and so forth. I also think it's kind of important that the player has the ability to get their damage up, mostly because the challenges that you'll experience at pretty high levels, where the Morganas have some significant, hull point advantages, you need some tools, right, to smack them around, and decent damage output is one of those. So I guess the short answer, Haba, is yeah, probably not. We'll see.
Okay. Zodiac wants to know if we can upgrade R&D slots to gold. I'd actually kind of be cool with that too, personally. I'm throwing my weight behind that one.
Yeah, everybody likes the gold, myself included. Yeah, possibly. I don't know that we immediately have plans for additional gold slots or upgrades to gold, but that is definitely an idea that we've talked about since beta. We get where the interest is from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, it's on our radar for sure.
Neat. Question about relationship with Belle's. Does it progress, bonus, and name change with the ending of one volume? So like the name where it says getting hot in here or whatever the friendship.
Oh no,
one says.
I totally missed it. I didn't see it on the thing. Could you repeat that? Sorry about that.
Oh, it's right under the R&D slot to gold question.
Okay.
Question about relationship with Belle's. Does it progress, bonuses, and name change with ending of
Oh,
one volume?
got it. Yeah, the bonuses remain the same if you go friendship or romance, but the name does change. And actually, we have all the names sketched out till 1946 actually. So can't wait till you guys get into that.
I see.
I would say in another way to explain it, currently we have some names depending on the relationship score, and we have also special name when you reach the last chapter of volume 1 with a bell.
Maybe. Sorry, guys. That's not my area. But I do know that there are names for the relationship levels all the way throughout to 1946. So there's some fun stuff in there for sure.
We definitely had a lot of fun coming up with the names. There's some of them are very cute. Some of them are a little bit poetic. Yeah, can't wait for you to see that.
Well, one more thing to track then.
We see a question here from Calc. Just remember the Q&As today. What did I miss? There is, Calc. Well, this is being recorded unless I'm much mistaken. And also, like on the script with all the questions on it, the questions from the chat are being put there, so you don't have to flip back between one and another.
Yeah. And Calc, I think maybe the most important thing you missed was depth charges. That's what you missed.
Yeah, that's really the crux of it. Also, Calc, again, you weren't here when we covered this question, but thank you for asking after my health. I appreciate it.
For horse memes, Messerbar, another captain, that's a big. It's not even April Fool's. It's just cruel. Yeah, that's a big thing that Messervar has been championing. Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's I would say it's even probable. Um, we haven't decided yet how many and sort of what the various use cases are. But I play Girls Frontline and know exactly what you're talking about and what Mess is talking about there. For correction, is there soft or hard cap? There's no soft cap on anything, but there is diminishing returns, right? Because at a certain point, your accuracy, which is determining the error in the range of your gunfire, at a certain point, you can make it smaller, but if your major source of error is all the deviation that the shell is gonna have as it flies through the air, 30,000 yards, then it just sort of doesn't matter, right? Not appreciably. So I think I don't know how familiar you are with sort of the equations for rangefinders, but if you take a look at them, you can probably kind of squint your eyes and figure out exactly what accuracy means.
I think there's one more question.
We've probably got time for one more question before we need to start wrapping things up, and I need to tell people who won the competition.
So I think I saw a question about a way to expand the 7 fleet limit.
Way to explain the number of oh yeah, look at that. Why am I not surprised that Haba has that, and in Excel as well? No doubt. Haba, why is it that you don't work for us exactly? Oh, it's the pay, isn't it? Yes. That's probably why.
It's also because I'm French and I would complain all the time. So.
Yeah, Y7. That was just UI. That was pure UI. If we could have had, big Jutland style fleets, I think we would have. But there's only so much room to show the characters on the thing. So yeah, that's.
So that's why there are 7 ships on fleet, but why only 4 fleets for now? And when will we have more than 4 fleets?
Yeah. So if you think about the rules around like cruising and whatnot, 4 fleets because you need them, right, to beat especially higher level maps, and then 3 cruise slots, right, so that you can tool around with whoever you're grinding with while stuff is going out there, or you can sleep, whatever you're gonna do. But more fleets, right, wouldn't change the number of cruises that you're going out, but to Horsebeam's point, would allow you to would allow you to cruise and also tackle like big maps that you need 4 fleets for, and so so on and so forth. Plus also you can toss in and save special compositions and pull in fleets for various purposes. It's just a handy tool, right? So yeah, I think we'll undoubtedly do more fleet unlocks as we go along. I don't know that we've arrived at a final number, but probably 7 would be the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you change the number, it also changes the balance of everything else. That is something to take into account.
Well, in this case, you'd still have 4 on a campaign map, and then you'd have 3 cruises. So what would be happening is that you're able to carry on resource accrual as you play the game. To your point, that means more resources, but people having fun. It's a worthy use case. We'll definitely think it through at least.
All right, Horsebeam's last question being, is there any consideration for incomplete ships in the case of huge historical ships, such as France finishing a Joffre? I definitely butchered that one. If they retain the mainland, a Kronstadt for the Soviets, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so I don't want to tip any hands here, but let's say that You know, you guys have all seen the Belle unlocks coming out of the war. As you pursue various things, if you stay focused on it, right, you'll you'll get your chance.
All right. Well,
Oh,
that's it for
and also, also those obviously are not going to be, you know, available for selection. Like you couldn't go, you know, I want Soyuz, right? Like if you're the Soviets. Sorry, man, you're going to have to work for that one. But you know, otherwise.
All right. Well, that concludes the question part of the Q&A. Moving on to announcing who won the competition. I'll just be going through these in